Today the markets take another dip to restart and refuel this moon boy ship. My dreams may be futile, but it's you say, well,
You're listening to Any Observation, the best NFT, crypto, and gaming podcast ever. With your host, Anders Bjork.
You can now hear us, I hope. I had some issue there for a second with some drivers. Some settings are reset. I think it should work well now. Let me know if there is any issues with sound or any issues with anything else. And today we are here with Lars. I'm very happy to have you on. I am a big fan of photography. I'm a big fan of people that can take stills and make them feel alive, and well, you can truly do a setting. We can see that on your stream setup as well. How are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, I'm good. It's actually this whole setup for, I don't know, I used to use this thing like 2-3 times a day, and like kind of had some changes and everything in my life. Plus my Z6 Mark II camera had to go back to Nikon to be serviced. So the D750 that I'm using for this stream, I actually had to break down and take to a shoot this past weekend, like a big full day shooting event. Yeah. So you know how it is when you I think you just upgraded a bunch of equipment, didn't you? Yeah. So when you have to like tear down the studio equipment and then use it for an actual like practical thing, and then have to put it back together, nothing goes back the way it was. So that I was working on this, like putting this back together like last night at like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and also like if you buy new stuff, you have to configure everything. I guess you are used to configure a camera, but for me, configuring a DSLR camera is not like you have to spend a lot of time to do it properly. I've done it lazy. I have a lot of things on automation. I shouldn't have autofocus on, but I do, and I should set everything up the way I usually use it. But that requires a lot of like practice and information, and it is not very easy to do, but it's also very fun to nerd in. Very nice.
Yeah, it is. I wish I'd start these processes of like QA like before 2 a.m, but you know, I had a lot. I also got into recently. I deeply got into 3D printing. So I was like doing that through most of the night, and then I was like, shit, I better set up my camera equipment for tomorrow. But yeah, very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. And so like, okay, so the first time we spoke, after that show, I got the shadow ban for 2 weeks on YouTube. Right. I couldn't stream, I couldn't upload anything, and Nick in the chat, when I said I was excited to have you here, he's like, yeah, big fan of getting banned on YouTube, is what he said.
Yeah, man, that's right. I forgot all about that. So kind of sorry, but what are you gonna do?
It was hard then. Now it's just fun, you know. And
is that because you stream mostly to children?
Yeah, it's only kids. No, I think all of my content is actually marked as for adults. For like, it can contain swearing and everything. The problem was the link to the dark pinup website. For some reason, it can't have been the thumbnail, can't have been the images, because they are way worse than that on everywhere on YouTube. But I think it's I don't know. It's some automation.
Hard to say. It's hard to say, man. We're moving into such a weird censorship, like you know, Orwellian world where like you know it's so subjective of what is considered inappropriate and everything. You know, like I always go back to thinking about like Zuckerberg with like you know. Facebook was literally designed like the genesis of Facebook was to have a website where Zuckerberg and his like dickhead friends could like judge and vote on like other women. That was the point. It was like a dating and voting like social network. And then now like if you put a woman's back on Instagram, you get like your whole account taken down. It's insane.
Nick just shared in his channel actually that if someone had NFT written in their in their text, and they were not allowed to post an image today on Instagram. But if they changed it to token, it worked. I have not experienced that before, but it's something new, perhaps. I don't know.
There was, I mean, this like I remember a while ago when Steemit was like really starting to get popular. If you tried taking out an ad on Facebook to promote Steemit, they would just fuck it. They wouldn't even let you post it. They would like pull the ad down.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a crazy world, these regulations, that's for sure. So for people that haven't watched anything you have done or haven't heard an interview, how about a short introduction of what got you into NFTs? People should go and check the Dark Pinup website and see some of the work that's available on Wax, and but let's bring it back a while and
regroup.
Yeah, regroup. That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I started wanting to be an illustrator, like comic book artist, and I think actually around the time you and I like met was like when I was working with Tops. Like me and Adam Matheson Sword were doing Garbage Pail Kids for Tops. But so that kind of was like the dream job. That was like what I wanted to do my whole life. And ironically, I did not have a whole lot of respect for photography. I kind of felt like photography was something that you did if you couldn't draw. And so because I remember, you know, with my school and stuff, like we used to get, like I lived right near New York City. So we used to take all these trips to the Met and everything. And I remember like blowing right past these like once in a lifetime photography exhibits, like Ansel Adams and like James Notchway and stuff, and just walking right past them and going to where all the paintings and stuff were. And then in, I guess it would have been 1999, I met this guy named Jim Gavanis. He was the teacher at the college I went to, and he taught basic photography. And it was like a requirement. It was a prerequisite for me to get my degree. And I was all pissed off that I even had to take it. But then I saw Jim's work, and Jim is just this incredible documentary photographer. He shoots stuff in like Haiti and the Deep South and like civil rights struggle stuff. And I don't know. He was the first time that I was like, shit, I think I want to do this. And the weird thing was I'm used to picking things up pretty quickly, like illustration wise and painting wise, and photography. I just couldn't. I mean, I sucked at it for like 10 years. I was really, really bad, but really, really like stubbornly persistent. Yeah. And probably after about 12 years of shooting, one thing I should mention too about Jim is like the documentary photographer, he doesn't use like lighting equipment or like strobes or flashes or anything artificial. And I sort of mentored under him, and I just learned his style. So I never used any lighting equipment either. And it just got to after about 12 or 13 years, I was much more comfortable shooting like portraits, because Jim was, you know, Jim would walk right up to people he didn't even know and just start taking their pictures. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. So I was shooting portraits and everything.
How can you do that? I mean, it's just go up to someone and just take a photo. I mean, for me, I would be ashamed doing that for some reason. It's very hard. I guess you get used to it, but
I think it has to do with personality. Jim is this kind of like he kind of looks like Shaggy from like Scooby-Doo. He's like really unassuming. He's like kind of this like hippie, and he's got this really soft approach and everything. And like, I just don't look that way. Like, I think if I'm in people's faces when I shouldn't be, I think they think I'm going to like kick the shit out of them or something. So like people are a lot more on guard with me than they are him. So, you know, so I just didn't like it. In a weird way, it felt exploitative a bit for me. So I just didn't like it. But yeah, I kind of got into portraits and like people who actually wanted to have their photos taken, but I still used that same lighting approach where I didn't use any like strobes or flashes. And over 12 or 15 years or so, I kind of developed this style. And, you know, because usually in portrait photography, everyone uses lighting equipment. Yeah. And then in I
mean, every guide you do for any photography, you have to have lighting set up from 3 angles and everything.
Right.
It isn't like every beginner tutorial is like that.
Yeah, so I had this totally different approach to it, and then when I started going out to LA in like 2013 or 2012, I think actually, there was this like pinup model who used to live in Minneapolis, and we'd always planned on trying to shoot together, and it just never worked out. And she moved back to LA, and I decided, well, I was taking one trip out to LA, and I just messaged her and I was like, hey, look, I'm coming out for like a week. Can we try to set up a shoot? And she said, sure. So, I remember I was like in LA, and I was down to my last like 400.
Yep.